Okay, next question is, how about family? Can they qualify your experience?
If you look at the work experience certificate itself, at the bottom it gives you a list of categories. It can be an employer, a journeyman, a contractor, a fellow employee, a union representative, a foreman or a supervisor, or a business associate. If your family member falls in one of those categories, I would have them check that box, but you want to make sure it's one of the ones that's listed there.
Next question, I'm going to be kind of careful and kind of go beyond it, is make sure that we understand the terms that we're talking about. Contractors in California that we're talking about have to be licensed. I have a next question talks about certifications. Where the only home improvement salespersons get their registrations. So you're going to hear us talking about licensing and registrations. Certifications, many times there's one like in the electrical industry to get certifications, which are actually done by the Department of Industrial Relations, a completely separate agency. So be sure that you're real careful when you're using and understand that we license contractors and we register home improvement salespeople. Okay, so here's the question is, they're talking about tree falling and trimming. Would this qualify them for the limited specialty? They said tree trimming certification, but it would be the C61D49, which would our tree limited specialty contract. If so, who should be your certifier, and what would they enter as a certifier's license number, since they would not be a contractor?
So it doesn't have to be a licensed contractor that certifies your work experience. As we mentioned, there's several different categories on the certification form itself. So any person who falls within those categories who has knowledge that you have 4 years of journeyman level experience can be your certifier. The first part of the question was, would this qualify you? 4 years of experience. We're looking for 4 years of experience within the last 10 years.
And the other thing
if they have a different license, I'm sorry, Rick, if they have a different a license in another state, you can include that in the box where it says the license number. Just let us know it's in a different state. That's not a problem.
The other thing I'll throw out there, depending on where you are in the state, there's something else, if you're in that tree industry or thinking about that you might want to consider, is the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, has something which is called I believe it's a land timber operator. And what they can work in, like, the federal lands, and there's a huge problem right now with dead and dying trees in the forest. A lot of it obviously with the wildfires and things like bark beetles and things. There's millions and millions of trees that the state's trying to deal with figuring out how to remove them. So if you're in one of the areas, there's lots of information online, but look at CAL FIRE's website as well, as they do have the timber operators. That's another way you can actually get, I think that's actually a certification, but it's maybe a much simpler way. If you have any problems and you're in an area where you might be able to utilize that, you may want to look at CAL FIRE and find out more about that as well. Okay, next question. If requested by CSLB, do I need to supply all of the work documentation for certification, or can you choose from the selected options?
No, on the form itself, on the document that we were showing, it's basically just giving you options. The first one I think is W-2s. If you have W-2s from for the last 4 years and you're willing to send those into CSLB to prove your documentation, that may be enough. The other options are just in case maybe you only have 2 years worth of tax documents, and so then you want to use something else to prove the 4 years in its entirety. Just giving you options. You don't have to send every single one that's highlighted there.
Okay, next question. Earlier we talked to somebody asked about their law degree. Here's one asking about master's degree. Does that have any impact if you have an advanced degree? Or again, is just because the focus on what that degree is in, if it has to do specifically with construction or possibly business, you might get some out of that. Right?
Correct.
Okay. What if you don't have anybody to be your certifier? We've talked about that some too. There's lots of different ways, whether it be building permits or in some cases even receipts that show the purchase of materials. And is there any other things that jump out that they might look at if they can't get a certifier?
Somebody has to certify you. We need to be able to confirm with someone that you have journeyman level experience. Again, it doesn't have to be your boss or somebody that you've worked with. It could be a fellow employee, but somebody has to be willing to fill out that certification.
Okay, next one. As an owner builder, can they use it as experience if the permit's still open?
I believe it's asking for the date that the project was finalized. It has to be completed. It's asking for a completion date.
I think the big point there is we have somebody needs to inspect it and make sure you actually did it. Just the fact that you tried to do it doesn't probably not enough to
Did
get a
it correctly.
license to do it. Yeah. Next question: what is if there is an existing corporation? Can I link my license to that business? Well, in this case, I'm not sure if I'm assuming that corporation is maybe not a contractor, but can you link it to that? I would think the answer would be yes. If you apply with that name and all the corporate officers and everybody is on that, you can then add a license. So maybe if you're
in fact, you have to register your corporation first. So it has to be an existing corporation. So go to the Secretary of State, register your corporation, then include your corporation number on your application.
Okay, next question about I need to get an accommodation for the test because they have a learning disability. Is there a process to do that?
So we did mention that in our presentation. Yes, you want to let us know ahead of time that you will need an accommodation, and we will be happy to accommodate you.
Yeah, our test center folks are really good about working with you. And we have, obviously when we're giving out thousands of exams every month, situations do come up. So they're really good about working with you and making accommodations to help you. Our goal here is to, if you can qualify, to give you every opportunity to present your qualifications, to pass your test. We want you to get licensed. Our goal here is not to keep you from getting licensed. If you've got the qualifications, we want you to have your license and be out there working. Next question.
I'm sorry, Rick, just real quick. We also mentioned question number 16 on the application asks if you would like to use a translator. If you are somebody who thinks you would benefit from using a reader, you can mark that box and we can provide you with a reader. It doesn't have to necessarily be for a different language. If you think somebody reading the screen to you would help you, absolutely check that box.
Perfect. Okay, next question. So if I'm the only person working and planning on getting a contractor's license, I need to register a name with the Secretary of State first before applying. Is it the name or need to apply a business license specific city? Okay, so again, sole ownership, if you're going to be a sole ownership company, that's the entity that you choose, you do not need to be registered with the Secretary of State's office. Secretary of State's does the work if you're going to be a corporation or a limited liability company. So if you're going to be one of those two, go to them first, get registered, get everything taken care of. If you're going to be a sole ownership, you do not need to go to the Secretary of State's first. As far as the business license, you definitely, and sometimes I get a little cloudy on this. Definitely you're going to need to have a business license in the city of record. In some situations, you may actually have to get business licenses if you're working doing a lot of work in a different city. Some cities require you to actually have a business license because you're doing work in their city. So you're going to want to check, and that can be a little overburdening. So you might want to check with the cities themselves. Let's say, for example, here in the Sacramento area, if you live, let's say, in the city called Folsom, which is a completely different city outside of Sacramento, but you do a lot of your work in Sacramento, you may want to check with the city of Sacramento and explain that to them, find out if you need to get a city of Sacramento business license. So you definitely want to have one for the city where your business is located, your address of record. But you want to check with some of the cities. If you're going to be doing a lot of work in cities, you want to check to make sure that if they require it, that you get that business license for them as well. Okay. Next question is, why does the LLC have to get a $100,000 bond?
That's the law in California. That's not a CSLB law. That's just the law in California. LLC has to have that.
LLCs have only been around, I think, 5 or 6 years. So there was a push to do that, and when the qualifications and the requirements were put in place, that's what was put in place. The rest of the contractors, $15,000 surety bond. LLCs have to have that, but then have this $100,000 bond as well. This has to do with the way that the business is set up. Okay, can you add additional personnel to a sole proprietor license? I'll say that's like the sole ownership license. You can, but the only one you need is if you're going to have a different qualifier. That would be that responsible managing employee. And is there any other situations on a sole ownership where you would need anybody besides an RME on that?
So just because you have a sole ownership license doesn't mean that you can't have employees. You can absolutely have employees. You're the only one listed on the license. So you are responsible for your license, but you can have employees. You'll let us know, you'll have a workers' comp policy, and that's fine. You can have employees. The only reason that you would have to have somebody listed on your license is if you were going to have a responsible managing employee, an RME, and you wanted to include that person on your license. that's a possibility as well. That's if you didn't have, let's say you didn't have the 4 years of experience, and so you needed somebody to qualify your license. If you found somebody who is willing to work for you, that employee has 4 years of experience, that person could be your RME, your responsible managing employee.
Okay, next question talks about pressure washing. They are the one actually doing the work. Would they be considered the qualifier? Yeah, if you've got the experience and you meet the qualifications or ready to sit down and take those exams, absolutely you could be the qualifier. If you don't and aren't able to meet it, you may look to try to get an RME, a responsible managing employee, to qualify the license. But if you've got the experience to do it, go for it. You've got it. That's you. Okay, 4 years of experience in the last 10 years is equivalent to about how many hours?
So we don't go by hours. What we're looking for is 48 different months. So as long as you have 48 different months, we don't want overlapping time. So if it's 48 different months within the last 10 years, we would look at that experience.
And if you can just touch on too, what happens if they do that in a part-time basis? If they don't, if
Sure.
they've done 2 years as a part-time, how's that taken into account?
Sure. So if you were working part-time, we would give you 50% of the credit. So let's say you only have 2 years of experience at a part-time level, we would give you 1 year of experience for that. So you would need to have an additional 3 years of experience within the last 10 years, because what we're looking for is 48 months.
Cool. I see we've got about just under a half hour left, and it looks like you guys are still sending stuff in, so we're going to try to pick up our speed a little bit. So I'll try to go a little quicker here.
Okay.
Can a business administration finance degree qualify for educational experience? Probably some. It's something we can't say without learning a little bit more. So we'll give you an email address at the end, but you definitely want to talk to us before you move forward with that. Where can I find the list of all the C61 subcategories? Go to our website, cslb.ca.gov. Click, just go to the search term, type in classifications. You'll go to that page and you'll scroll down. You see the A, the B, all the different C's. Go all the way down to C61. Click on that. That'll show all of the D categories. So that's how you find that. Okay, next one. How do you calculate 4 years? If there was a project I supervised that lasted 9 months, do I have to show another project that covers the 3 months to equal 1 year? Yeah, you sure would.
And you can have one person certify the 9 months, another person certify the 3 years, somebody else certify the additional 3 years. Make as many copies of that certification form as you need.
Okay, I worked on my family's property. May I use that as experience?
Only if you own the property. If you own the property, then yes.
Okay, so if they're maybe a
and they're applying for the B license. That's only for the B licensing.
Okay, if I hold a B license, am I required to have a C specialty license? You know you aren't, but here's the caveat. The B license requires you to be doing take a job that actually has 2 trades besides the framing. So let's say if you've got a B license and somebody calls you out to do an electrical job, you can't do just an electrical job with a B license. It's got to be a bigger project that includes electrical, then you can. If you're going to be legally to take on that electrical job, you have to have a C10 electrical license, and you would do it under that classification. So the whole concept behind the general contractor is they are general contractors. They do the construction jobs that include framing. There is legislation, and keep an eye on it, about us creating a new license category where if it goes through, and there is good support right now, we'll be creating a sub B category for home improvement projects that don't include framing. So that's something that we've worked at for a long time to try to get into place. We're having a lot of success with and support in the legislature right now. So that's something we're very excited about, and we think it's going to be great for the industry. Hopefully we're going to be able to get that up and running within the next couple of years if it does pass and is signed by the governor. But we're very hopeful that's going to happen. I think that's going to be great for the industry. Okay, next one is, does only permitted work on home projects qualify for experience?
Yes, you have to have a permit. Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one, a federal employment, how about federal employment uses qualifying work experience? For example, I worked as a forestry technician for 15 years with numerous certifications in tree falling and trimming. Would this qualify for the D tree contractor limited specialty?
If you have somebody who is willing to fill out your certification and list exactly what the duties were that you were performing at during that time, we would definitely take a look at that.
Great. So I'm planning on taking my General B, and I'm currently working with a framing crew, but considering on changing paths and working with an electrician soon. Do you need to work with the framing crew in order to sit for the General B license?
So as long as you have some framing experience within the last 10 years, you can include that on your application. So now, like, let's say now you're going to go work for an electrician, not a problem. We're looking for 4 years within the last 10.
To confirm, we need to create a business name corporation before applying with CSLB. Yep, you got it. Go to Secretary of State's first for corporations or LLCs. Otherwise, sole ownership should come straight to us. Hi, I've got a twisted path into the trades. I was a designer and a physics simulation professional in visual effects and have leveraged a lot of my CAD skills to prepare early renders for clients and also project management administration, some large construction projects for clients. Ultimately, my goal is to design and build small homes. And thanks for the question. Separated. I'm sorry, Cedric, I'm not seeing a question there. But if it goes to, is the experience going to work? It's hard to say, but because if you think about it, what does a B contractor do? Certainly design can be part of it. There's also, engineers that are licensed or architects that are licensed that are involved in that as well. If you can show to us that the kind of experience and development is something that a contractor would be doing or expected to know, there's a chance that can be used for it. So I'm not sure I can kind of go beyond that. And feel free, as we move down the list, if you have another, you can add more and we'll come back to it. Okay, who would be my certifier, and do I enter a certifier's license number? Okay, so in case if they're not a contractor in California, you certainly could enter that information, anything that would be helpful. If they are a California contractor, you absolutely want to have their contractor's license number in there. Okay, next one talks about the master's degree with architecture. Can that be used towards some? If so, how much? Can't say how much. It's possible, again, to the previous one I mentioned, how much of that is the kind of work that a general contractor would do. If there's some real close connection to that, then there's a chance that it can. Get in touch with us. We'll have the email addresses again if you want to send an email, but definitely talk to us before you send it in. Seeking an A license for doing work designing, manufacturing, installing, and commissioning systems for gas turbines, generator controls, and other utilities. Would a C license like a C10, which is electrical, be required? And I think in most of these things, if we've got a specific classification, let's say for these turbines and generators, the work that's done in connection with that, you wouldn't need to have a separate license. If it involves, like, let's say, for example, in the solar industry, if you've got a solar license, obviously you're doing some connections of electrical. You don't also have to have a C10 electrical license. The law says that if it's related to that solar project, then that you're expected to get your license, you're expected to be able to do everything necessary to get that installation done. So in this case, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'd say if that's the kinds of things that are required to get that classification, you don't have to get an additional classification because it also includes that.
Correct. It's considered incidental to that classification.
Thank you. A long answer. You answered it in one word. It was incidental. Okay. So, what is the pass rate and percentage for first-time takers in the law and business exam?
Good question.
I'm trying to go from memory here. It's not when I get off, and I haven't checked with our testing folks. I got to say it's probably in the 50 to 60% range, probably. It's one of the things about, it's a great industry. God bless a lot of you that are great with your hands. The testing and things can be a little bit more of a challenge. There's kind of no way around that. But again, just remember, it's minimum competency that we're testing for.
And you can take it, don't give up. You can take it as many times as you need to in the 18-month period. As long as you're paying that $60 rescheduling fee, you can keep on coming back. And not necessarily because you come back and and take your exam, are you going to have the same questions? We are constantly changing our questions, but keep on coming back. Keep on trying. Don't give up. We encourage you to keep on coming back.
Yeah, I'd also say too, in the business and law exam, it's kind of important to know that stuff. So to take it as a not just a challenge to try to pass the test, but also know that this is stuff you're going to actually be able to put to work for you to run a successful business. So if you kind of maybe keep that attitude in mind too, and know that this is really going to benefit you as you study and you try to get yourself up to speed. Again, look at our law book. That first 150 pages goes into a lot of the business and law exam topics that you're going to. So our website again, and just search for licensed law book. There's a link on towards the first few slides of our presentation. Take a look at that. That'll help you a lot as well. Okay, another question about certify the employee if you're not a contractor. Yeah, that's fine as long as they know the work that you did. Is there a specialty license to install water heaters only in residential homes, or would that be the C36 plumbing license?
A C36 can do it. I don't know that we have a specific one just for water heaters.
I don't know. I don't think there is one for water heaters. The other closest one that we get a lot of is like HVAC, which is heater and air conditioning. So a lot of times those people will have the plumbing too, but I think C36 is the right one for that. You reach out to your prior employers if they are the qualifiers for, I'll try this again. Do you reach out to the prior employer that is the qualifier for experience? Oh, the certifier, probably the certifier for experience. Like looking for a new job, this can be difficult to make happen without raising issues with your current employer. Anna talked a little about this. Anna, go ahead again.
We see that very often. Our applicants are hesitant to ask their current boss to be their certifier because they don't, the boss, oftentimes, like we heard from somebody here, that their boss is not cooperating. They don't want you out there as their competition. So that is very common. Your boss does not need to be your certifier. You can select a different certifier, somebody who is willing to work with CSLB, who is willing to verify your work experience.
Holy cow, people. It's great you're sending so many questions, but boy, we got 15 minutes. I don't know that we're going to get through everything, but we're going to keep going. So fortunately, I think we're just finding themes, and a lot of things are asking the same kinds of things. So if you've got specifics, we'll give you an email address at the end if we're not answering it, and feel free to get a hold of us. Next is a home improvement salesperson license. Actually, it's not a license. It's just a registration required for a salesperson who only sells commercial. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, if they're selling, it's what they're doing. If they're selling and getting people to sign contracts, they need to be registered. Do I have to register a business name before I send the application? Register.
No.
If it's a corporation and getting that, yes, you have to get that in place. But your business name, you don't.
And again, that's not a CSLB requirement. Registering your name, that would be if you're a sole owner, that would be your local building official. So you want to check with your local. With the city or the county to see if they require that you do that.
Okay. Again, what circumstances can the test be waived? And we're only talking, the only test that conceivably could be waived is the trade exam. The business and law test cannot be waived.
If you were on a license that is current and active, and you've been on that license and that license is active, you could qualify for a waiver, perhaps.
Okay, next one. If I hire a general contractor and have him running my construction for projects, may I use the time he's employed by me as my experience? So it sounds like he used the qualifier. He got this guy to qualify his license. After some time, can he then become the qualifier himself?
So yes, oftentimes we see that, let's say you only have 2 years of experience, you don't have the full 4, you can have somebody qualify your license, and let's say you make an agreement with them, you're going to be my qualifier for 2 years. After 2 years, I'm going to remove you as a qualifier, and then I want to be my own qualifier for my license. You can absolutely do that. Once you remove a qualifier, you have 90 days to replace them. You will have to take the trade examination, the exam. If they took the exams, now you will have to pass the exam.
Okay, next question is in 2 parts. I'll head on the first part first. You said something about an exemption if you don't have employees. When you get your license, you got to do 1 or 2 things. If you have employees, you got to get us their workers' comp insurance information. If you don't have employees, you have to file with us an exemption saying you have no employees and therefore you're exempt from having to carry workers' comp insurance. When we go out and we do things with the media and consumer education, we tell them to look for workers' comp, and don't go do things like, let's say that I've got 6 office workers and you have people out there climbing trees or up on roofs. That's against the law. That's not only, it's a misdemeanor not to have workers' comp if you've got workers. If you actually have a fraudulent account, that's felonies, and you're looking at prison time for that. So don't do that. So that's the 2 things. You got employees, we got to get their workers' comp information. You don't have employees, you got to file an exemption. And down the road, if you do get employees and then have to get a policy, you don't have to wait till you renew your license. Get us the forms and get us that information. Work with your broker or your insurance carrier, and they can file that online. Okay, now the second part of this is if they don't have employees, can it waive, they want to be an LLC with no employees, will that waive the $100,000 bond requirement?
No, it's very different. Workers' comp is different from the surety bond. Workers' comp is if you have employees or not. If you don't have to have it. You go ahead and send us the exemption. Surety bond is a requirement of the LLC.
Okay, can handyman experience count towards your license? Yeah, we want you to get licensed. If you're out there doing the work, even if you're doing it as unlicensed, if you're breaking the law, I don't want to say we don't care, but we don't care. We want you, if you got that experience, you can qualify to get your license, come get your license. We'll do what we can to help you qualify that. So that kind of work, save your receipts, save your, the permits, save stuff that can show that you're doing it. A lot of times people will hire the unlicensed contractors and try to keep things under the table and hush hush. If you want to be legitimate and get your license, save that stuff, to take control of your own destiny and start compiling that information to get your experience.
Yep. Contracts, invoices, checks, whatever, start compiling it.
I've taken an intro to business class. Can it be used towards the work experience? I'll just say maybe, but probably not a lot. If it's just an intro to business class, that you're probably not going to get much out of that. Next, can an owner act as a general contractor on his own? In this case, it said condo. Yeah, you don't have to have a license if you're an owner builder working on your own property. If you're doing something like that, you don't. There are some cases where laws eventually will kick in if you're doing multiple properties in a certain amount of time. They may say, well, that's going beyond just doing your own stuff and you're actually doing business stuff, even if they're investment properties. So take a look at the website, do the search, talk to an attorney if you really are concerned about that. For the most part, you do not need to have a license to work on your own property.
Right.
Okay, applying for license and sole ownership. You don't have a registered name. Do you need to no? Okay, we've dealt with that a couple of times.
Yeah.
Corporations, LLCs. Okay, work experience. I'm having trouble getting my former employer to fill out their portion of the form. Another way to verify. Maybe show pay stubs from a previous employer.
No, somebody has to be willing to fill out the certification. That starts the process. It may be that you are selected and we ask you for additional documentation, in which case your pay stubs would be helpful. But in order to submit your application, you're going to want to have somebody sign the certification. And we talked about who that can be.
Great. Next one talked about study courses for the B. You go to our website, type in study exams. We go to get a bunch of information. 4 years experience on our general contractor like a handyman, but I was taking care of the electrical. Would that count on my application? I'd say if you're applying for electrical, there's a good chance. If that's all you're doing, that's what your experience is in. So yeah, it wouldn't count for a B, but it may count for a C10, which is electrical. Okay, you're working on a house that has multiple projects during different times of the year that are under $500 in labor and materials. Is that okay? For example, some yard work and some painting and some shelf installation. Okay, I'll say what I said at the very beginning. This is not legal advice. I'm not presenting legal advice. Anna's not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Those legal interpretations, I can only tell you what our best knowledge is of what the law is. The law says that you can't do a job that's more than $500 in labor and materials. The law doesn't say you can't do a job that's broken up over a 12-month period. It doesn't say if you can break, the law interprets, in the case law is interpreted that you can, if you take a bunch of pieces in a short order that were then combined. It was, I think the example I used is installing ceiling fans. If you do 10 ceiling fans, you can't break it down into a contract of 4 fans, 3 fans, and 3 fans to get around it. It's the total job. So if you're prepared to go argue that in front of a judge that's not one job, then good luck to you. You can. We're not lawyers. So long answer to a short question is, over a long period of time, yeah, chances are that's probably different contracts, and so maybe those are okay. If they call you up and say, okay, I need you to install 1 ceiling fan, they call you up 2 months later, I need you to do this one little painting job. Yeah, you could probably make a good argument that those are separate and would fall under the handyman exemption. You'll take a chance though. You may get invited to a sting, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, are both tests required for tree service? No, the tree service is the C61 D49, so that's a limited trade, so you only have to take the business law exam. You do not have to take a trade exam for that one. The other one that a lot of times people will use is we do have a C27, which is our landscape contractors. So if you're just doing tree stuff, yeah, that limited specialty limits you to just trees. If you are going to be doing installations, whether it be retaining walls, sprinkler systems, sod, all the things that a landscape contractor would do, you would need to have that landscape contractor license. Sorry, yeah, landscape contract license, which is the C27. Okay. After a few months or years obtaining a contractor C license, if I hire employees, what do I need to do? Have them listed under my license? No, you don't need to list all your employees with us. You need to make sure they're covered with insurance. You or whoever you have as your qualifier and you on that license. Those people, that doesn't change just because you had employees. God bless you that your business is growing, you're able to bring on employees. Make sure they're covered in insurance. We don't have to know who they are unless they're actually going to be a qualifier or an officer, somebody important on the license, not just employees. After a few months obtaining my contractors, oh, I'm sorry, I just read the same question again. I've done projects at my brother's house. Can that count towards owner builders? I managed from getting the permit to the end of the construction. Anna.
No, it would have to be on your own project.
For a corporation, all the officers are required to have, it says live fingerprint, the live scan. The RMO is required, but how about the other officers, corporation officers? Yes, you are required to. It's on it's very early on in the presentation we talked about that. So go back and look at that information if you need to again. Okay, I'm going to skip over a couple for these because they're going into that owner builder experience again. I've registered an S Corp. I'm the only owner, have 100% shares. Is it okay to apply with my corporate for a B general contractor? Again, Anna and I are not attorneys, but corporate. I can't get into corporate law, but we have corporate licenses, so I think you're going to be okay. But definitely check. That's a little bit too specific for Anna and my knowledge. Okay, I have no formal work experience. The only experience I have has been from the work I've done in my own personal residence. I was in the military and have a 4-year degree, but nothing relating to construction work. Okay, well, I'll just mention that sometimes some of your military experience may count. You may want to check that. We do have, we had links in the presentation to our assistance program. If you think any of that, if you think it wasn't, well, then it's probably not going to help you. If your 4-year degree doesn't have any connections to construction, chances are it's probably not going to help you at all. You may want to go down the route of, Anna talked about it, and we've talked about it a few times, maybe looking to have a qualifier help you qualify that license. And then as you build up that experience, you may be able to take it over yourself. Anything else, Anna?
No, that's about
Okay.
it.
I'm looking to get a C55. Is there any advice you can give me on receiving this license? Boy, I'm not even sure I know what a C55 is. I'd have to pull up the list, and it's not one I deal with a lot. But the basic point is, though, is the qualifications and everything you do to get your license is the same regardless of which classification it is. You got to have the 4 years of experience out of the last 10 years. You got to pass the 2 exams. This is a C, so it's a specialty. So you have to do both the business and trades and that specific trade. I'd go ahead and pull up the study guide for that. Take a look at that. I'm sorry, my computers are all tied up with this website.
Water conditioning.
Oh, water conditioning. Okay.
Water conditioning.
My guess is it might be a good time to get into that business. There's probably not a lot of water conditioner contractors. If that's a good one for you, I would say, talk to people that are maybe already in the industry. Hopefully, as part of your experience, you've worked for a contractor who's done that. Maybe they'd be willing to kind of assist you, make sure you're ready to go. Our goal is we want you to be a successful businessman or businesswoman. We want consumers to be protected and not get ripped off. So if you can do that, we'll do what we can to help you to qualify that license. Can the business name be just your name without a construction description at all? Example, the first and last name construction. Yeah, that's fine. If you've got a B license and it's construction, you can do it that way. I think I've even seen some that don't even have the word construction, it just has their name. Yeah. Okay, I turned in my application work experience. May I add additional information to an already turned in application?
So your application, once we receive your application, it's assigned to a technician. Contact your technician. It depends what type of information you're trying to add. Most of the time they will work with you. Just contact your technician and let them know.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of repetition here. We only got about 5 minutes. Try to give me a second here to try to find something I might not have answered. Okay, if you can pull your list out, Anna, he's asking, she actually is asking about demolition. What type of license for demolition?
Sure.
C1-ish, C12, they run together, but the list is there. You happen to have it there.
Right, and it depends as well, because there's a, it depends exactly what you're going to be doing. You're going to want to look at our, we have the description of classification booklet that divides it up for you, and it lets you know exactly what type of work you can do with a demolition license. There is one that is, and then if not, you can also send an email to the classification deputy, let them know what type of work you're going to be doing, what is it that you're going to be demolishing, what type of materials are you going to be working with, and they can let you know.
Yeah, a lot of times we see those, especially after wildfires. We see demolition contractors involved in that a lot. Okay, we've got time for just a couple more, and I've seen a couple here that we'll do. Okay, my experience is in commercial construction. I'm realizing I'm more drawn to residential construction. Can they switch? Actually, you don't need to. Our B general contractor, it doesn't ask you, it doesn't care if you're doing commercial work or residential work. Some other states actually do have separate licenses, but here in California, it's all the same. So if you're a general contractor, you can do commercial jobs or you can do residential jobs. Okay, I'm applying for a C38 refrigeration license. Is service and repair work included in the $500 limit, or is just the bids and contract work? Also, does it make a difference if the unit is attached to the building or self-contained? I'll break this out and deal with it. And actually, service and repair it's a good question. We really didn't talk about that at all. There's a couple different types of things contractors can do. The vast majority of what happens and the vast majority of problems we have in consumer complaints that are filed are in home improvement. These are people, they hire to do improvements to the property and something wasn't done, not up to standards, some issues with front loading a contract and getting too much money and abandoning a job. The home improvement laws, that has one specific type of contract. Now, a whole different part of the industry is what's called service and repair. That's your air conditioner goes out, you call an air conditioning company to come out, you get a leaky pipe. There's some kind of a situation where you call, those are service and repair. Those are limited to $750. So the rules are different. In a home improvement contract as a down payment, you can ask for no more than $1,000 or 10% of the contract price, whichever is less, as your down payment. And then as the contract moves through the process, you cannot ask for money before that part of the work has been done or before materials have been delivered to the property. So you can't get paid in advance for work or materials after that down payment. Service repair is different. The limit on a service and repair contract is $750. You cannot take any money at all as a down payment. Now, if somebody calls you out, let's say that you have the C20 HVAC, they call you out, their air conditioner is not working, and you find out what the problem is, you diagnose the problem, you're able to fix that for less than $750, but you talk to the homeowner and you say, well, yeah, but ideally, really the system's 25 years old, you really should look at getting a new system. That part of it, if they decide to do that, that ceases to become a service and repair project and now becomes a home improvement project. The big thing about that is with home improvement projects, you have a right to cancel. I believe it's a 3-day right to cancel. So a whole different set of rules come into play. So if one of the things you're interested in doing is one of the industries like electrical or plumbing or HVAC, that uses two different kinds of contracts, you obviously want to be sure you understand the differences and when you could use those. No, that's not really the issue you brought up, but I think it's important to know that there are different kinds of contracts. Again, the vast majority of problems we see are in the home improvement, so a lot of our focus is on that since there's so many more contractors. But if you are going to be in an industry that does have service and repair, make sure you know how the different contracts need to be used. We've got all that information on our website, the different guides on how to put the contracts together. Phew. Anna, anything else to add? We need to.
No, I think you covered it.
Well, thank you to everybody. I think we ended up with about 250 people plus online with us. We hope we've answered as much as we could. We do want to take you through a couple of email addresses here. And thank you for all that. We encourage you to drop an email to our licensing division if you do have licensing questions. And there you can see the address is licensing@cslb.ca.gov. Be sure to include your phone number, other relevant information such as your license number, your app fee number, any other information that's going to help our staff provide you with a thorough answer. You also can call our Licensing Information Center. It's Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. We actually have people answering phones once you get through our automated system. The vast majority of stuff you can get through the automated system, but sometimes you do need to talk to somebody, and there's options to be able to transfer. That's Monday from 8 to 5, and that number is 800-321-CSLB. It's all over the website if you need to, you don't get it from there. Also, as far as the rescheduling your exams, when you do get to that point where you've got your exams, here's the email, or if you have questions about the exam process, fire off an email to our licensing exam people. That's exams@cslb.ca.gov. Be sure to include your name and app number if you do have that when you do respond to us. Anna, I'll let you wrap.
Okay, so that concludes today's workshop. An archived version of this was going to be placed on our CSLB YouTube channel so that you can watch it later if you need to. We welcome your comments for future webcasts, or any comments or any topics that you'd like to see in the future. Let us know. Just drop us an email. You can see our website there, social@cslb.ca.gov, and let us know. Also, please look forward to a really quick 3-question survey that we're going to be sending you.
Alrighty, special thanks goes to our CSLB licensing division staff as well as our board members. David De La Torre, thank you for joining us as well, and all the other staff that helped us on the workshop. The Get Licensed to Build workshop is a copyrighted production of the California Contractors State License Board. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.